Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Enough. We are so glad to have you guys back with us, especially for the second episode of our Reclaim the Season series. Today's topic is kind of going to be a little bit about Thanksgiving in a sense, and I'll let Peggy explain what that means.
Yeah, so I think most of us know a little bit about the story of Thanksgiving in America. I mean, obviously it's not an Orthodox holiday, but we know about the Pilgrims and the Native Americans, and maybe it's a little bit overly romanticized, but we've got that holiday that has been passed down to us throughout the years to all of us Americans that live in this great country. And I think that Thanksgiving did have, somewhat of a religious history. Even some of the past presidents, like Abraham Lincoln, called it specifically a day to give thanks to God. But now that we live in a country where a lot of people aren't Christian, that or aren't practicing, that element of it has slightly faded away, and Thanksgiving's become more about giving thanks for the things in our lives, perhaps outside of God. Like, who are we giving these thanks to? I don't know. I think a lot of people just kind of throw the thanks out into the
Right. It's kind of the last second, like while you're eating, oh, what are you thankful for type deal.
right.
Um,
And
but
it's a good moment. People can be like, I'm thankful for like my parents for making this food. I'm thankful that we can get together. That's great. But I think that we as Orthodox know that sometimes Thanksgiving can go a lot deeper than that. Because
right.
we're called, to be thankful every day. We have the liturgy, which is so awesome, in which we're called to give thanks. And we have communion, which is called the Eucharist, which comes from the Greek word Eucharistia, which literally means Thanksgiving in Greek. So that's pretty epic. And I guess today, as we're reflecting on the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday here in America, we wanted to turn our focus to some of the first Orthodox saints in America and their contributions to Orthodoxy where we live now, because not all of us are living in the old countries that we all came from, or some of us are new to Orthodoxy. So we think this is a good moment to go back and reflect. And I'm going to give it to Nico in a second to start talking about some of the saints of North America that we have. But first, I just wanted to say that there's a great Akathis service to the North American saints. And in the service, there's this beautiful line that I wanted to share. It says, "We offer thanks to Christ for the wondrous deeds you have accomplished through him for the enlightenment of all men, women, and children living in this new land." And here, the you that this line is addressing is the North American saints. So is this good moment where we remember that the saints, not just in North America, but throughout history, have really done what they have done for Christ's sake, and through Christ's help. So I think that's a great moment. And Nico, maybe you want to tell us some of the saints we're going to be focusing on today.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a couple of saints in my little notes, so I'm not sure if I'll go through all of them. But we have talked about American saints before on the podcast. I believe it was just once we talked about Saint John Maximovich. Me and Noah back. I think it was actually either the first or second episode of the podcast series. And so we touched on how we don't really have like American born and raised saints, but we do have these bishops and other very pious, holy people that have come either from Russia or other countries that have come and spread the faith throughout America. And so one of the saints today we want to focus on is, hold up, where did I put it? Saint Innocent of Alaska, and he was actually one of the first to come over to America. And his story is a bit funny. So when Russia, well, I guess little backstory. Russia was kind of the country that said, okay, we're going to start spreading Orthodoxy to America. So they were kind of the first ones to send missionaries over, and a lot of these saints in America we have are kind of from the Russian Church. Anyways, so Saint Innocent of Alaska basically volunteers. He's the only priest that steps up and says, "I'm going to go to America. Let's do this. Let's traverse the terrible cold tundras of Alaska and spread the faith like a good missionary should do. You should just he had the zeal for it. And so he brought his family over. And what's really interesting about how he started his missionary work, and something we really wanted to touch on today, was he didn't come over and then just completely, like, right when he stepped foot, started preaching the gospel. He really took time to understand the culture of the Alaskan natives and who they were. And he actually learned 6 different languages that they spoke, and because he would travel around Alaska, and they didn't speak all one common tongue, and so he had to master all of these dialects. Later on, he developed a common language between all of them using the Cyrillic.
I think Cyrillic.
Cyrillic. That's the yeah. That's it. The Cyrillic alphabet, and he created their own alphabet, and he was able to translate the Gospel of Matthew and other hymns through there, and obviously more as time went on. But he started his missionary work in a sense where he wanted to become one of them before he preached Christ, and he never forced the faith down people's throats. It was if you want to learn about God, I will teach you, but it's a personal choice. Just as every day we as Orthodox and we as Christians and other people have the choice to say, okay, today, God, I'm going to seek you. And that's what we're called to do. We're called to, just get up every day and do our best to seek him. But that was just kind of Saint Innocent's methodology behind his evangelism. And I think that's super important as Christians today. We should, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah.
I mean, I know what you're trying to say. I think that we're one thing that I've learned about orthodoxy and evangelism is that sometimes we're like, why don't we go out and evangelize more, right? And I think one of the things that is so central to the Orthodox belief about practicing our faith and spreading it to others, it's a way of life, and it's the way that you act and treat other people. It's not necessarily about like, okay, like you have to convert now, like here's the things, convert, or like something bad's gonna happen to you. It's all about learning and growing with those people and loving them for who they are, but bringing our faith to them in a way that's not, overly confrontational. I mean, it was through St. Innocent's love and his example that the people of Alaska and then later other people throughout North America ended up converting to Orthodoxy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so moving on, I'll just touch on one more saint for the sake of myself, not to get lost and confused like I just did. But I'm going to be talking last about Saint Raphael of Brooklyn, and then we'll tie this back in and how this relates to Thanksgiving. But Saint Raphael of Brooklyn was actually the first bishop to be ordained in the States. So though other bishops have came before him, he wasn't the first. He was the first one to be elevated in America, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
But so his story goes, he was kind of born, I didn't write where he was born, but he was born kind of in the Middle East under the Church of Antioch. But during his lifetime, due to heavy persecution, Russia ended up kind of taking over and leading the Church of Antioch. So Antioch was under Russia during this time. And so he gets sent to Russia after he's ordained a priest and elevated the rank of archimandrite to be a representative of Antioch to Moscow. And while he's there, he realizes that Antioch, kind of should be its own church again. Like they're strong enough to hold their own and stuff. And so he starts writing bishops, both from Antioch and Russia, to grant them self-governance again and say, hey, like we can do this. And that's kind of the biggest theme that he brings over to when he comes to America. And so he comes to America to be the priest of the Arab Orthodox community in New York. So that's kind of how he gets over here. They say, hey, we would like someone that speaks our language and can relate to us. Please, send them over. And so he gets here. And once he gets here, he realizes that the Orthodox in America are just not united. There are many people everywhere from every which land, wherever they could get to. And a lot of them were leaving the faith because it was easier just to go to the Protestant church down the road, or they just kind of were leaving because they had nowhere to guide them. And so what St. Raphael did is he would take many journeys across America and do, mass baptisms and marriages and hear confessions. And he did this many times in his life. He would go from New York to just across the country, wherever he could get, and then come back doing the same. And one of the other really cool things he did was created a magazine for the Syro-Arab mission in America. And I believe the translated title of that means the world, I think I read. And what this did was really link all the faithful together, because it was inside it contained like encyclicals and teachings of the bishops and the priests and other different events going on throughout the church. So it created like a sense of unity. And really that was what St. Raphael's whole mission was. He said, he just wanted to unite everyone to the common faith, the true orthodoxy, and either reignite the flame of the faith in these people, or just continue to teach them, which he did. And the website in which I was reading wrote a really beautiful line that I think uh, uh, is beneficial for me to read. And this will be kind of the end of St. Raphael, and we'll move on. But it says, from his youth, St. Raphael's greatest joy was to serve the church. When he came to America, he found his people scattered abroad, and he called them to unity. And how beautiful is that? And that's really something to be thankful for, that we have these bishops and saints now that came before us, that really established the beginnings of American Orthodoxy.
Yeah, super beautiful. I think that I know when I first heard about St. Raphael, it was from a lot of my friends who have an Antiochian background, and their experience at some of the great camps that the Antiochian diocese had in America. They've really come to grow to love St. Raphael and see him as, a patron for those of their ancestors and for themselves who have come to America and are trying their best to stick together and unite under the faith. And I think unity is really important. Like you said, how he came over and they were kind of looking for someone who knew the language, also another really important thing. Throughout history, you've seen the Orthodox Church translate services into many languages. They're still doing it today, which is awesome. And I think, though technically you could maybe say English is spoken most widespread in the US, you have so many people with so many different backgrounds. And so to have a representative come and really plant roots in America and help grow the faith here is so important. I know that we can be thankful for that, even if we're not from the Antiochian background, because we're all one Orthodox Church, and it's really beautiful.
Right. And yeah, I think that was kind of the idea that was kind of behind this episode, is that, in America, we talk about Thanksgiving and we talk about the pilgrims coming over and establishing this nation, and all of that, the things you learn in elementary school, and all of that kind of basic knowledge. But we as Orthodox, we have that. We have these saints and others. There's many more that we didn't touch on, that came and were bearers of the faith, and they spread Christ's light through the country. And I think it's really, really cool to read about their stories and see how the church formed, because it wasn't a very clean formation of the church. There was like a lot of politics, a lot of just, it was just messy, I can't really
Right.
think
And
of other words
it
to
can be
describe.
so hard. It can be hard to explain to someone outside the church, right? Like, oh, like you go to the Greek church, right? I'm like, well, yeah, but like you don't have to be Greek to come to the church.
Right.
I've got so many friends from so many different backgrounds. Maybe they're not even from like a historically Orthodox country. I've got friends whose parents converted and they've been raised in a beautiful faith or have converted themselves. But we have these people, these wonderful saints that we can turn to, who we can give thanks to, and who we can give thanks to God for, because they came and really helped us unite as best we can in our very pluralistic Western American society.
Yeah, no, of course. And we have so much uniting to do, as you can see, just looking at kind of the state of our church today. But thanks to these people who knew God was enough, who knew that the church didn't have borders, but rather that we all need to come together as one, uh, we can just give thanks for that, knowing God is enough, knowing these saints knew that, and hopefully we can continue to pass that message on.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving, and God is enough.